of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Simpson, roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Papantos?
Present.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
President Harker.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of August 20th, 2018. We need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second.
Second.
Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Abstain.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Abstain.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Harker.
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
just-
Spondos.
Okay. Okay.
Clerk Simpson, proclamations.
Okay. National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, September 2018. September is known around the United States as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month and is intended to help promote awareness surrounding each of the suicide prevention resources available to us in our community. The simple goal is to learn how to help those around us and how to talk about suicide without increasing the risk of harm. Suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. According to the CDC, each year more than 41,000 people die by suicide. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults in the U.S. and the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 24. Wheeling chooses to publicly state and place our full support behind local educators, mental health professionals, athletic coaches, PAC leaders, police officers, and parents as partners in supporting our community and simply being available to one another. Local organizations like Suicide Prevention Services and national organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Illness are on the front lines of a battle that may still refuse to discuss in public, as suicide and mental illness remain too taboo a topic to speak on. Every member of our community should understand that throughout life's struggles, we all need the occasional reminder that we are all silently fighting our own battles. We encourage all residents to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, friends, and neighbors over the next few days and to genuinely convey their appreciation for their existence by any gesture they deem appropriate. A simple phone call, message, handshake, or hug can go a long way towards helping someone realize that suicide is not the answer. Be it resolved that Patrick Horker does hereby proclaim the month of September 2018 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the Village of Wheeling.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Mr. Citizens' concerns and comments. Just as a reminder to the audience, this is a time for the citizens to make comments and express their concerns about the village. This is not a time for debate or dialogue. The board will not be interacting with the commentators. Clerk Simpson.
Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. I hope it's reading right. Mr. Fakori.
Good evening, everybody. President Porcher, village trustees, thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Sam Fakori. I am here on behalf of Wheeling Liquor Store. The owner of the establishment, Mr. Patel, apologizes for not being able to attend today, as he is the only employee that works at this location and couldn't find anybody to come into work so that he could be here for today's meeting. It is my understanding that the village is looking to implement a cap possibly on video gaming cafes. There was some discussions that I've had with the Community Development Office, Mr. Martin specifically, and Brooke in the zoning department these past few months. I personally have reached out to the village president's office and left a couple of voicemails as well. I just wanted to talk about those conversations briefly, bring this to your attention as you take into consideration putting a cap on video gaming licenses. Currently, Mr. Patel operates at about $60,000 in sales per month. Assuming that he gets anywhere between 18 to 20% in profits. Based on those gross sales, he's looking at about $12,000 in profit. Of that $12,000, $5,500, almost $6,000 is paid in rent. By the time he factors in his utilities, his real estate taxes, and other expenditures, including payroll, which is himself, he's left with very little. This business has been in operation in Wheeling for over 20 years. My family does the accounting for this establishment, and he came to us for help to try to figure out other sources of revenue and income streams to sort of sustain his business. As it sits today, it's very difficult given the shopping methods that people are accustomed to today with e-commerce and Amazon and things of that nature. It's been very difficult for a packaged goods license to continue to operate with all of this e-commerce out there. We explored looking at video gaming as an option of additional revenue. We read the city ordinances regarding liquor licenses and the classifications of codes pertaining to these licenses. We understand that Wheeling currently does not allow packaged good license locations to apply for video gaming. We also understand that the state of Illinois requires a pour license to seek these type of licenses. We've done a little bit of homework, and we found that in some other cities, they do have combined licenses that allow for, in this situation, a liquor store to obtain a combination license, which would allow for the consumption or pour of alcohol in a designated area or room that is enclosed. I know this is a touchy subject for everybody, and I don't want to add added rhetoric to an already touchy subject, but I felt that it was important to have the Board of Trustees understand the conversations that were had with Martin and other staff members as we tried to come up with ideas as to how we can implement this in this particular setting. We do understand that initially this type of license was adopted for, among many reasons, one, to generate tax revenue for the city of Wheeling, but to also help local businesses, not just people coming in to open video gaming cafes. And I feel like that this situation is exactly what calls for that. After speaking to the location owner and meeting with the village on several occasions, I wanted to take a second to read an ordinance from the city of Summit, just to give you an idea of how a combined license was implemented. This is in conjunction to a package store, and it reads, "The serving and consumption of alcohol liquor must take place in a designated enclosed area where the video gaming machines are located. Serving and consumption of alcohol liquor must not take place outside of this designated area and within the store. Serving and consumption of alcohol liquor for a sealed package is not allowed anywhere on the premises. Alcohol liquor shall not be served after 12 o'clock midnight, and this license does not apply to gas stations and grocery stores to sell alcoholic liquor in sealed packages." So in this situation, this particular amendment to the liquor code was to allow for a combined license for a liquor store. The store itself does have a designated area where we can easily implement this private room. After speaking to Martin, he did say that this was something that would need to be brought before the board and something that would need to be voted on. As a backup to that, we talked to Martin and suggested the possibility of renting the space, which is adjacent. Is that the timer?
That is the timer. Can you finish the sentence?
Can I get 30 seconds more?
Finish the sentence.
I'll keep it quick. We talked to Martin about possibly renting the store next door. Sorry.
Can't do it.
Okay.
I see your point, and I'll be in touch with Martin, and he's, I guess, going to be in touch with you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Ms. Sobey?
Good evening. My name is Melissa Sobey, and I'd like to say it's a good evening, but I'm actually going to say it's a tired evening for me. As many of you may know, there was a noise meeting for the airport last week, but as some of you might not know, there were 9 flights that came in last night between 11:58 p.m. and 1:05 a.m. According to Flight Aware, they came in at 11:58 p.m., 12 o'clock a.m., 12:07 a.m., 12:20 a.m., 12:28 a.m. In case you thought you would be able to fall asleep, They started again at 12:39 a.m., 12:39 a.m., 12:52 a.m., and 1:05 a.m. I did complain to the airport noise hotline and website. Rob Marks informs me that the airport is public and people can use it without limits. I fear some board members may have more concern about the airport than the health, well-being, and safety of our Wheeling residents. I hope you'll look into this and do something to stop this before someone gets seriously hurt, or more adults and children are impacted due to lack of sleep. Last night was a school night and a work night for many people. I've lived here for over 20 years, and these airport noise concerns just keep getting worse. When will the residents be a priority in this situation? I thank you for looking into this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Barbaza? Okay.
Hi. My name is Barbara Barclay. I'm with TNT Management Group.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We manage a company called Tracy's, and we had originally started this process about 3 months ago. It is a gaming cafe. We also serve some awesome food. We have 15 other locations, and we have 3 more doing a build-out. We run a fantastic business, and we would really look forward to being in Wheeling. Sam has a little more information because he's been in touch with Brooke and Martin as well. So he just wants to speak real quick as well. I just wanted to introduce myself.
Just like the other gentlemen we had heard the limitation on gaming in Wheeling and wanted to present an opportunity for us. We had the landlord here as well. It's 18 West Dundee Road. Great location for us and for gaming, we think. Of our collective stores, we are 3 of the top 5 in the state of Illinois consistently over the past year, and we really do run a very, very strong operation that will be good for the community and good for the village. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Wilson?
For some of you who are familiar with me, you know that I've had a very strong emphasis in my public comments of the extraordinary increase in our taxes we've had between 2008 and 2015. And so what I'm going to say next is probably going to surprise you. Our school district 21 right now is attempting to pass a referendum, and it's one that I hope that everybody supports because it involves something so important, what should be important to all of us, which is child safety. They're looking to put in security and air conditioning, which might seem like a luxury, but it really is critical to security because for those of you, I know at least one of you here grew up in a cinder block home. When cinder blocks get very hot and it's very difficult to cool it down, it's very easy to prop open the windows or the doors, which would allow a potential assailant into the building. So I really hope that you all are in support of that. However, one thing that really concerns me is that, when I look at our property tax bills, it shows the portion that goes to the school district, and I think it's, I believe that Village Manager Svandilis has been remiss in requiring and enforcing the requirement of building permits on all properties, because when somebody gets a permit, it's not just for safety. of how the construction is built, but it also forces the municipal staff to inform the county that a new building has been built on a parcel and that it has higher value. And that higher value comes back to us in property taxes. So I'd like to show you an example of one reason why I really think that Village President Horker needs to resign. His business property is made up of 7 parcels. I don't know if you can see this here, but if you go to the GIS, this is the parcel that his flower shop is on. His little flower shop's there, and that bigger building right there is his brother's automotive repair, a very lucrative business. The business application license, he had at least 4 employees. He holds the contract, a federal contract, to repair all of the mailbox trucks, the Postal Service trucks for the Village of Buffalo Grove Post Office. He's got a very lucrative business, and yet, on this parcel, we've got 2 businesses. It's major class 2 residential. It acknowledges only 1 farm building. Their property taxes are $2,055. I pay more than that for an 800 square foot. I pay double that actually for an 800 square foot 1-bedroom condo. Okay, so we have fraud at the top, which will tolerate and indulge fraud everywhere else. I feel that Village Manager Svandilis, I showed him, everybody actually on this board, a new building that just went up between 2016 and 2017 that did not have a permit. I have not heard anything back if there's going to be any enforcement, or because he's on the board or connected to the board, if he gets a pass. And it's really unfair to the other businesses in town, because when I compare parallel businesses, before I move from that one parcel that his flower shop and this auto repair is on, only $855 of that goes to District 21. Now, if you compare his cousin, who's a really honest guy, Mr. Dan Horker, who operates a similar business on Milwaukee Avenue, 407 North Milwaukee Avenue, he has 2 parcels. He's paying a total of $26,000 doing the same type of business. He only has 5 bays in there, and he's got, and his brother has 4 employees. One of his parcels, the parcel that he's paying $6,000 a year for, $906 of that's going to the school district. Forgive me. For his other parcel that he's paying $19,000 a year in property tax, $2,695 is going to District 21. Okay, I wonder if we need to improve inspections, not just for our village president, but for all businesses. And the other ones are in class 5-22, major class 5A commercial. 25% is being taxed at. He's being taxed at 10%. It's wrong. It's wrong, and Village Manager Svandilis is indulging him. I have got a box from the Cook County Assessor going back decades on every parcel on that property. If there's a pro se attorney in the audience that would like to email me at wheeling.deborah.wilson@gmail.com,
Ms. Wilson.
I would encourage them to contact me and give me any help
Thank you.
I can in persuading him to step down, but we
Ms.
cannot ask for
Wilson.
referendums when we are not, our village manager is not enforcing inspections and permits so that the
Find a
county has an
seat, Ms.
accurate assessment of
Wilson.
what properties are
You
worth.
know how it works. Thank you.
That's it.
That's it? You need to do better homework, Ms. Wilson. So there's been some very specific accusations made against my family and I relative to the lands we own. I think they've been intentionally completed, that we've intentionally completed false affidavits for the purposes of defrauding the county and other tax-paying bodies. The fact of the matter is we are reassessed every few years. We do fill out agricultural tax exempt forms. The land is predominantly farm. The forms account for the non-farm acres. Of these 7 parcels noted, only 5 are considered farm. Of the 5 parcels that are considered farm, 8 of those acres are considered non-farm. It's all very clear. It's all very public. As a result of the accusations that Ms. Wilson has been making over the last month or so, we have had 4 different branches, 4 different individuals from the assessor's office review the documents, The end result is actually going to be that we may have been over-calculating the non-farm acres. The short answer is my father may have actually been cheating himself as far as how much acreage we declare as not farm. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. Regarding the licensing and zoning and permitting, I have and will continue to work with and cooperate with the village and the county officials to ensure that the complicated process of applying residential and/or commercial code to old farmland is appropriately in compliance. Okay? I do not claim to be perfect. I do not claim to not make mistakes. But I would like to take this opportunity to provide the residents to question the agency and/or specific people that represent them. In other words, if you have questions, call me. All right?
You don't return my emails, worker.
But to presume without factual basis that our officials are serving with corrupt intent is really not a service. Okay? If you have any questions, if anybody has questions, call me or come by and visit. You know where to find me.
Has he sent an inspector out in the last 2 weeks for your new building? Yes or no?
Did you get your 5 minutes? Good night, Ms. Wilson. Clerk Simpson.
Okay. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all agenda items. 11A, resolution authorizing acceptance of a previously bid suburban purchasing contract for the purchase of 7 2019 Ford Utility Police Interceptor SUVs from Curry Motors in the amount not to exceed $29,750 per vehicle, with the total not to exceed $207,867. 11B, resolution authorizing acceptance of a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Illinois Department of Transportation Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program grant through federal fiscal year 2019. 11C, resolution accepting a bid and approving a contract in the amount of $816,155 with Boulder Contractors Incorporated for the South Wheeling Road drainage improvements. 11D, resolution accepting a bid and approving a contract in the amount of $73,784.15 with Archon Construction Company Incorporated for the Milwaukee Avenue Sanitary Sewer extension to North Wolf Road. 11E, resolution waiving competitive bidding and accepting a contract in the amount of $24,955 with Chicagoland Paving Contractors Incorporated for the installation of a pedestrian path along Meadow Lane. 11F, resolution approving a contract with GE Rifford Company for roof repair and replacement in an amount not to exceed $244,820 during fiscal year 2018 and 2019. 11G, resolution authorizing acceptance of the State of Illinois previously bid contract with CDW Government LLC for the purchase of Cisco network equipment in the amount of $101,000, $233.10.
Questions from the board? Left, right? If there are no questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
It's not working.
I didn't do anything.
Oh, here it goes. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, who was it? Trustee Vogel?
Trustee Vogel, and second by Trustee Lang.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes. Thank you, Clerk Simpson.
We need to remove from the table.
Sorry?
We need to remove from the table the next one. Old business.
Need a motion to remove?
Yeah.
So moved. Motion, Trustee Lang, second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos, roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes.
Okay, 12A, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a tavern at 79 South Milwaukee Avenue, Karma Pub, docket number 2018-19.
Mr. Jennings, what do we have?
Thank you. This item was tabled at a previous meeting due to some concern that an inadequate number of trustees were present at the meeting. It was a meeting where the liquor license vote had been held earlier in the night, and the suggestion was made that the petitioner should return at a later date when when all the trustees were available to review the item. Just by way of reminder, this is Karma Pub. It is 79 South Milwaukee Avenue. They are proposing a tavern, which is the specific special use per the zoning code, that includes gaming. The Plan Commission held a hearing, reviewed the proposed use, and has recommended that it be denied by a vote of 6-1. There were concerns that the use may disturb other units in the adjacent to the subject unit in the shopping center. There were also some concerns raised that it appeared from the project description that it operated more like a gaming facility than a tavern. Petitioner is here. Before I hand it over to them, there were conditions of approval included in the Plan Commission discussion prior to the vote, and those conditions of approval have been placed into the draft ordinance for your review tonight. If the board wishes to approve the special use, it would include the following conditions of approval. Number 1, prior to occupancy, a rack for 2 bicycles shall be added to the site. Number 2, prior to occupancy, an outdoor smoking area shall be designated. Number 3, based on the proposal for only 1 employee during a peak shift, there shall be no more than 18 seats. Number 4, special use approval shall be subject to liquor license approval. Number 5, entertainment may include DJs, karaoke, and live music, not to exceed twice a month. Number 6, additional soundproofing shall be installed to common walls prior to occupancy.
Questions from the board? Trustee Lang?
Thank you. You know, at one time I was all over these liquor license and the gaming cafes. And I thought it seemed like it was good. Liquor license didn't seem to be a problem. Ask the police department at any time, do we have issues with any of our liquor establishments, and it was very minimal. Do we have problems with any of the gaming, and it was non-existent. But, you know, as I said before, and I'll say it again when we talk about the cap, that this is a perfect example of that cap and why we need it back in place. I think things have kind of really strayed from what we originally planned or had in our minds, at least had in my mind, about these gaming facilities. And I'm not happy with the direction it was going.
Just to be clear, this is a tavern. So this is a special use for a tavern, although obviously your points connect directly to
Yes, and I understand the difference between a strict gaming facility and the tavern. But to me, it smells more like a gaming facility than a tavern at this point. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Brady?
This is called a tavern? It comes under a different heading?
Correct. The license they've applied for is a tavern with gaming license, with gaming facilities.
Cafes are under the same jurisdiction, damn near 18 people, you know, five machines.
The difference really is the reason for existence. The purpose of a tavern is to sell liquor. The purpose of a gaming cafe is gaming.
Listen,
it's the
I own a Ford. I could
liquor.
call it a Cadillac. It's still a Ford, you know. I don't see that this makes any difference.
There's a requirement in the village code to be a gaming cafe that 50% of your revenue, not including video gaming revenue, has to be made up of food and non-alcoholic beverages. I can guarantee you that a tavern does not meet that 50%.
I'd like to see the gaming cafes make that quota too. We see the revenue that comes into the state from these places, and if 50% of that is food out of a microwave oven, you know.
You might be right, and we should put those facilities through an audit. But keep in mind, the video gaming revenue does not go into that formula.
We've got plenty of liquor stores in town.
Right.
Trustee Kruger, you can be after Trustee Papantos.
If you did not have the gaming machines, would you open?
Yeah, I don't mind to open. The problem is this, if I have not that facility and if other establishment have that facility, so I automatically eliminate the people who want to drink and who want to gamble. So that is a little bit hard. And I'm not here just to open up the gaming. I'm in the business for 15 years. I have 4 or 5 locations up and running, which some of the locations I serve the food also. So my whole idea is apply for the Class C license, which is Tavern is a neighborhood bar. And we're gonna do the like DJ, we have the like, dart machine and pool league and all the stuff. So I'm gonna bring something different, new idea in addition to the gaming. The gaming is an additional, revenue with that. And all other establishments have, and if I don't have, and if I open, I automatically lose that revenue because I don't have that.
We'd be selling ourselves short if we cut out the gaming, because we already have like 5, like you said, 5 different locations that are very successful. We've never really had issues with the law or anything, so why would we not try for it and sell ourselves short if it's available and we can get it?
Do your other 5 locations have gaming machines?
Yes,
How many gaming machines?
5 machines,
the
each
most
location.
you have.
Each has 5?
Correct.
And are you listed as taverns or video gaming cafes?
No, it's a
Those other
tavern.
locations?
No, it's a Tavern, it's a Lake Sports Bar, Lakeview Place, Fairfield Tab, is all the neighborhood bars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger, Trustee Vito, you're after.
Thank you, Mr. President. My first question to the petitioner is, you understand the conditions and you don't have any issue with providing the soundproofing and all of the conditions that were presented to you?
Correct. The only thing I was wondering is the bike rack, is that something, because most of our customers are going to be drivers, so I was wondering if that is something that's absolutely necessary, or?
Director Jennings?
Sure. The Plan Commission has, for several years, has been recommending this as a condition of approval in locations that have limited access to bike parking. It is something that is commonly added. You have employees in addition to your visitors, so it is something that the Plan Commission recommends in any sort of restaurant or bar.
Fair enough. What I would like to say to you guys, because we've certainly had some time to think it over longer than we did the last meeting. I'm always interested in new businesses in town that are going to fill a vacant storefront. Let's just put that out there first. I'm also interested in new entertainment establishments that will make Wheeling a destination for visitors and residents. I also do not have a negative view of liquor and/or gaming. What I do pay most attention to with each project at the Liquor Control Commission level and at the trustee level is if the proposed project is well done in presentation, if the design is also well done, and if the business model makes sense. I just feel like your proposal was missing some of that criteria. Your drawing for your plans for the build-out was really nothing short of pencil on a
Because I actually
paper.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
We actually did revise the plans, because I know you were asking about that last time. So I went ahead, and it's not, it's still very, it's vague, but it's better than what we submitted earlier, which was just a basic drawing. If you want, I can come give you guys all a copy.
You want to give it to the clerk?
Yeah, well, there's one for, it has the watermark on it, but you could still tell the official grid lines. It's not to scale, but it was, before it was the old,
You need that?
before it was just the plain, like, without the bar layout or anything, or the permanent fixtures or the tables. So now I just kind of added the tables that you guys were asking for, at least a seating of 16 or more, or less, sorry.
Okay.
And it does have 2 exits and entrances, so we would have one that would use us primarily and one would be the emergency exit.
Okay, I appreciate that you've done it, but I still feel that the design and the business model is just really not what I'd like to see on Restaurant Row. And that's, to get a Milwaukee Avenue address for an entertainment establishment, to me, needs to just be stepped up a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Vito, and then Trustee Brady.
Yeah, I think the petitioners make a good point. If we're going to consider restaurants and bars or taverns and not allow them to have gaming, they're going to be at a very, very big disadvantage to everyone else in town that has the gaming already. And I don't think that's fair. I think maybe we should have had that discussion at the end of the night, at the beginning of the night, because we're all sixes and sevens, as the British say, on this issue. We lifted the cap, now we're against it, now we don't even want bars with it. We're really sending out mixed messages to petitioners and people that want to open up a business in this town. With this particular situation, I don't think you can run a successful tavern in this town now without video gaming. I don't, you know, unless you're really, really at the higher end, like a Spears can pull it off. But something that's going to be like this, a smaller venue, you're going to have video gaming. I was at Market Square for the golf outing dinner, and I was sitting next to Sam Argyris, our former village president's son, and I commented to him, like, look at those machines are packed, and that really brings the people in and keeps them there. And if you're going to have a smaller bar like this, as long as we have these in town, we're going to need to figure out, you know, how we're going to make this an even playing field. This is not a gaming cafe application, and maybe it's disguised like we've seen before with the soup guy who's now not doing soup, which I called him out at the first time when he was a gaming cafe, but we didn't seem to have a problem with that then. So I just think we're giving a lot of misdirection. We need to get this in line, and I don't think they should be suffering at our confusion at this time, and I think we should approve this and then get it right. The second point, the bike rack point, I've made that point before. I'm the only person on this board that actually bikes to a bar in this town, and I don't think they all need bike racks. You find a pole, you put it around the pole, and leave it alone. No one's biking to that bar but me, and I can see the pole right there that I put my bike on. It's right there, that parking sign, and no one's going to take it. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Brady?
I just have to, you're selling packaged goods out of here. That's what makes you...
It'd be dry foods, yeah, because we don't have a space for a kitchen.
How are your prices going to compare to the liquor barn right across the street?
Stella's? Is it the one? Are you talking about Stella's or?
No, the liquor barn right across the street from you, the wholesale liquor store.
Oh, are you talking about the price of the dry foods or the alcohol sales? Are you talking about prices for?
Prices for a six-pack or a bottle of something.
Well, we would do a demographic research and just kind of figure out what, you know, cost of like a beers in suburbs versus.
You don't know what you're up against there.
I mean, we probably, like, what do you price it normally? That's what you would do.
I mean, we're not going to sell the packaged good. Is it on
No,
premises?
we're talking about liquor sales.
Our liquor sell like 60% from the liquor and the food, and 40%.
No, what would you price? How would you compete with?
I mean, I need to see around how much the price is, and according to I'm gonna do my prices, because if I do higher, then I cannot have any business, and if I do lower, I lose my GP. So I have to, you know, calculate, you know, at a later date, and you know.
And going back to follow up on what Trustee Vito said. You know, when we sat around here trying to figure out how we're going to help our businesses, our taverns and restaurants that are not failing, but they're suffering from whatever the reasons at that time, you know, the gaming came in, and initially the thought was, this is great, we're helping our local businesses get ahead a little bit. The Market Square, some of these other businesses that have restaurants in town can put some machines up and make a few bucks to help revenue, pay the taxes or something. And that's nice. All of a sudden, we're getting this flood, absolute flood of cafes coming in here. To me, this is just another way to call it a cafe, but it's not a cafe, because we're going to sell liquor. We won't be able to sell too much because we can't compete. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Papantos.
I'm sorry, I have to clarify something. When I read your application, this had nothing to do with selling packaged goods, i.e. liquor, a bottle of liquor or a six-pack of beer. You will not be selling.
No, we're talking about the food that we have to have.
I just want to clarify, you are not selling packaged goods. You are selling drinks to consume on premise,
Yeah, and
correct?
beer would be open before it's
Wait a
passed over
minute.
the bar.
Thank you.
Can I ask, why is this called a tavern then? Not a, I mean, are they selling,
One moment.
yeah,
You're all done?
Yes, thank you.
Trustee
are
Brady.
they selling liquor? Doesn't a cafe sell beer and wine and drinks?
This tavern is for consumption on premises.
And what about the cafes with gambling?
The cafes cannot sell packaged liquor.
But they consume it on premises.
Correct.
So what's the difference?
As the attorney said earlier, it's about the threshold of income and what the intent of the business is to be. A tavern is meant to be, have its priority with on-premises consumption, whereas a gaming cafe, the liquor is secondary to the gaming.
I give up.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Any other questions? Trustee Vogel.
If we feel that we should have had this discussion, point D, prior to talking about this approval for the Karma Pub, what's the big deal if we postpone this again and do our discussion on a liquor code review, and then that takes care of it? We can figure out what we've got, and then what we're going to do with future gaming licenses.
I think, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, the issue here is, what you're being asked, though, is to approve a special use for a tavern. So.
Right, but if we technically say we are no longer going to issue any more gaming licenses at this point.
The license has been issued. The liquor license has been issued to this establishment, conditioned upon a special use being granted for this tavern. There's a lot of confusion, it seems. This is not a gaming cafe. This is a tavern.
I understand, Jim, that
right.
it's a tavern. You can call anything you want. You can call it anything you want, okay? But the reason it's opening is to get a gaming license, okay? And if we decide however far we take the gaming license discussion and possibly put a moratorium on them, period, for a while, then there's no reason to issue the special permit.
This license was approved. This license was approved at the last meeting. So they actually possess a liquor license if they can meet the conditions. One of those conditions is before you tonight. Are you willing to approve the special use for this particular tavern? The vote tonight is not about their liquor license. It's about their special use.
But if we do not issue it, grant them the special use, they cannot apply for a gaming license.
The liquor license fails. The liquor license goes away.
And with that, no gaming license.
Correct.
So if we decide we're going to do something with gaming licenses as far as a wholesale moratorium on them, then why even bother?
I think you should deal with the special use tonight before you. And
That's
then
fine.
deal with your liquor code as you see fit.
Okay.
But
I have to go along with the Plan Commission's recommendation. It was pretty strong, 6-1 against, so that's just how I feel about it.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Other comments? If there are, Trustee Vito.
Yeah, and I apologize I didn't make that clear. And as a parliamentary issue, and I'm not the parliamentarian, but we are only voting on the special use. That's why I tabled this. The liquor license has been granted. The gaming, whatever V it is, I don't know the letter V.
CV.
CV has been granted. What we're voting on now strictly is the special use, and I think it would be improper to try to basically veto the gaming or the liquor license through the special use process, and we should vote on them independently. I know that's a little bit of parliamentary logistics, but I think it's proper, and we should be voting strictly on whether or not we think this is a tavern, because they already have in their hand that license.
there's a special use vote before the board. There's a zoning action before this board
Right.
that has to be taken. I agree with you. Correct.
And you should vote yes. Sorry.
Mr. President,
Mr. Trustee Brady.
if we're voting on a special use, what are the plans?
Everything that we've been provided has been provided to you.
I don't have on my, do you have on the,
No, what,
The revised one was just
the
passed
revised
around.
one is the one that was just passed out.
that's it? Where are the
Yes, sir.
washrooms? Where's the dry storage? The toilets are right on the wall out? This isn't a site plan. Call this a site plan? Where's the coolers for the product? Where's the food being prepared?
You see, water closet.
This is
We
ridiculous.
don't have a kitchen, you know, we're not gonna cook any food inside.
Motion to approve.
Sorry?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Trustee Lang?
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Kruger.
Take a vote.
I was just thinking.
Okay.
That happens sometimes. My turn to pause. I do see Trustee Vito's point. I have to say that we are voting on just the special use. The liquor license is already in their hands. Roll call, Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
No.
Trustee Kruger?
No.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes,
Okay.
I see your point, Mr. Vito. That failed, didn't it? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Clerk Simpson, next item.
We need to do a table again. Take it, move from table.
Make a motion, we remove it from the table, item B.
Trustee Vogel, motion, second.
Second.
Trustee Kruger, roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes,
Okay, should I read it?
please.
Resolution ratifying the village manager's execution of a contract with Long Construction Company for the Wolf Court Diversionary Channel Crossing and Roadway in the amount of $1,707,546.
Mr. Spondilis, what is this?
Thank you. As the title indicates, this is ratification of a contract that you had seen before you at the last meeting. It was tabled for discussion this evening. Since that meeting, I was notified by our engineers that a delay in signing the contract would create additional expense, potentially winter conditions, because the bridge span itself has a rather lengthy lead time. I, at that point, reached out to each of the trustees individually, making sure that I wasn't overstepping, receiving approval from each of the board members individually. I signed the contract for $1.7 million approximately 2 weeks ago. This is the formality, pardon?
Nervous?
A little. This is the formality that, that ratifies the contract.
Any questions from the board?
I apologize, this was my fault. I didn't have a good lay of the land there, so.
Motion approved, Mr. President.
Not the end of the world. Motion, Trustee Brady, second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos, roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. There you go, you don't have to pay for the bridge.
Excellent.
New business.
13A,
Yes, please.
13A, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for recreational instructional facility at 593 North Wolf Road, Blooming Minds STEAM Academy, docket number 2018-21.
Mr. Jennings, what do we have?
Thank you. Blooming Minds is an existing facility that is, there it is, located on North Wolf Road. The petitioner is seeking to expand by operating a additional unit, primarily for tutoring. The original intent is for this to accommodate tutoring for existing customers, existing children who are already attending the Blooming Minds Academy. The petitioner does wish to expand over time, though, and the findings of fact from the Plan Commission hearing will explain that in further detail. But the idea of the additional business is that while it is located in the same building, it is not directly adjacent. Therefore, it's not an expansion of the special use. It is a special use specifically for the new unit. The two are related, of course, though. Through the Plan Commission hearing, there were a couple of concerns raised. One regarding the extent to which the business can expand after it begins operating out of this unit. Due to the parking requirements at this location, the Plan Commission suggested a condition of approval restricting the expansion so that they would not need a parking variation. There's also an issue raised during the original discussion when the business first opened regarding the noise impacts on adjacent units. There are other occupied units in the building. Due to the noise of the facility, one of the adjoining neighbors requested that they install some soundproofing panels. The similar suggestion was made during this review. With that, the Plan Commission has recommended approval, and the following conditions of approval were included in their recommendation. Number one, due to the parking requirement, there should be a maximum student occupancy of 30 at any given time. And number two, prior to occupancy, additional insulation shall be added to the unit to reduce noise impacts on neighboring tenants. With that, the petitioner is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Questions from the board? Can the petitioner come up?
Excuse me, President Horker.
Yes.
We're hung up here. Both of us, we're hung up on our...
We all are. We're having
We all
network
hung up.
issues.
We're having some Wi-Fi problems here.
Yeah,
so
I'm having
that-
trouble with mine too. It's not working. See?
I got paid for it. It don't crash.
I got,
Mike's gonna, he's gonna talk to the
Thank
man
you.
behind the curtain.
The man from behind the curtain, right?
Aye. Great and powerful.
Meanwhile, I assume we can
I'm
continue.
sure we can still ask questions.
thank you, I thought it was me.
You caused it. We won't tell
probably
anybody.
is.
What?
It probably is.
Does anybody have some general questions?
Yeah, I would if I could read the ones I wrote Friday. Actually, my one question that I do remember is what type of security do you have for the children? You have two separate entrances, correct, now? Do you have security so that people can't just wander in from the older side, your newer side, and the older side?
We have a key in lock with a passcode right now, so we have one door now. But then for this new unit, we will also add the key in lock.
So how does a child come in after school?
The parent will drop the child off at the facility, they'll log in, come in, and then exit, and the door locks.
So only the clients can enter?
Yes.
They're the only ones who have the code?
Yes.
And do you work with our public safety groups for drills to have children enter and exit, either fire or police?
Well, we have regular drills right now for any occasion, and for fire safety, for tornado safety, and for that kind of occasion as well. So we do monthly drills for fire safety, once a year for tornado, and then quarterly for any kind of other situation.
Thank you. And do you have an outside playground? I was unsure of that, and I can't remember. I remember reading something about it. And
Yes, we have in the current building, in the new unit, because it's just for tutoring services, we're not planning to have any.
And how long does a tutoring session for each client last? Is it 3 hours, 4 hours?
It depends, usually 45 minutes or maybe 2 blocks if they sign up for 2 classes at a time, so maybe mathematics and language, so 2 blocks of 45 minutes.
Thank you.
Anybody else manage without the electronic?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to have a resolution. It looks to be a function of board docs. At least the Wi-Fi on my phone is working. So Luca is trying to figure it out, but in the meantime, whatever we can get done.
There's no other questions. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion trustee Vogel, second trustee Lang.
Wait. Vogel said yes. And then
Vogel and
Lang? Okay.
Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
13B, resolution approving and authorizing execution of intergovernmental agreement regarding the Nicor Gas Franchise Ordinance Alliance Cost Sharing Agreement.
Mr. Ferrolo, explain this.
Thank you, President Horker. A little background on this item. Back in 2009, approximately 38 municipalities banded together to negotiate a new franchise ordinance with Nicor. They used their collective negotiating power to ultimately reach an agreement that had some favorable provisions for those municipalities. Unfortunately, not all communities were part of that consortium. Wheeling was not a part of it, and multiple others. And Wheeling, like others, are now operating under expired Nicor franchise agreements that Nicor now has been attempting to pick off and negotiate one-on-one. Now, my law firm represents about 25 municipalities. Multiple communities were not part of that original consortium, but we had thought about putting those that had not been part of the consortium together to negotiate with Nicor now to develop what we believe to be an ordinance, a new franchise ordinance that's more equivalent to what was given to the consortium communities back in 2015. And what's before you is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement regarding this new Nicor franchise ordinance through a cost-sharing agreement among municipalities that join this new alliance is what we're referring it to. And when we negotiated with Nicor, John and I individually, we had asked for some of the provisions that the consortium communities had received back in 2016. For example, there was their franchise was a 25-year franchise, and Nicor was only offering a 50-year to us. And we had asked for really the same terms, and their position was, look, you weren't part of the consortium, so we're going to deal with you differently. And they've been taking that position with the other communities that also did not join. Currently, from our client list, Maywood, Orland Park, Western Springs, they so far have agreed to join this group. Before you is an agreement tonight which would allow Wheeling to join the group. And by joining the group, I think what it does is give those that are part of the alliance some collective negotiating power. It's also a cost savings initiative. You will split attorney's fees relative to the drafting of documents involved in hopefully reaching a new alliance agreement with Nicor that's more similar to the consortium agreement. Some of the terms that we're interested in addressing include the term of the franchise being 25 versus 50. Also, the consortium agreement had what's called the most favored nations clause, which says that in the event communities near you in the area are given a better deal in terms of price for gas, you will also be offered those terms. The consortium group was paid a one-time payment. There are insurance requirements, right-of-way notice requirements that were part of the consortium deal that we have tried to negotiate individually that Nicor has been unwilling to do. So it's our position that with putting the group together, you'll save money and also hopefully have more power in the negotiation. So that's what's before you, an agreement to join this alliance. and to then go ahead and negotiate with Nicor to wrap up a new franchise agreement.
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Attorney Ferrillo, two quick questions. It'll save our community money in the fact that we're working with other communities for the legal fees and everything else, correct? Will it save Nicor users money in the long run, hopefully?
Ideally, that's what we're shooting for.
So is that...
I can't put a price on that, but that we want to be treated like all the other communities in the consortium in terms of the cost per therm of natural gas. And we may be equivalent at this point, but this will ensure that you stay with them. That's the key.
Is this somewhat similar to the consortium we had with ComEd a while ago, where a group of municipalities got together and because of the economy of scale got a better rate?
I'd say it's comparable in some way in terms of cost savings, at least.
Yeah, the electric aggregation was specifically a contract negotiation for the sole purpose of price per kilowatt hour. This is a little more broad and speaks to the franchise agreement and everything that is entailed inside that agreement. So this is more protection, that was more price.
And how long before we see this come to fruition?
The consortium took around 6 years to pull it together. I don't think it's going to take 6 years because the document is there. So I would say within 12 months, once we get a group together, we have a real shot at pulling something together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang?
Well, that was a little bit of my question as well, as the comparison between the two. And is there...
Back to consent agenda.
Will something happen with this where Nicor will eventually, is it comparable in such a way where Nicor will find a way around like ComEd did and, with pricing and so on?
Well, ComEd was working on the commodities market. That's what was pushing the pricing issue with ComEd. So ComEd's pricing was dictated by entities outside their reach, right? It's the entirety of the commodities market. This is really just the parameters by which our agreement, our relationship functions with Nicor. And as Attorney Ferrillo said, I think at this point it's safety in numbers. There already is something that is favorable to some communities. We're just trying to make sure that it's going to be favorable to us.
And in this case, the difference is this is purely Nicor. It's not all these different consortium or all these different delivery functions of electricity, which there were. This is still delivered by Nicor.
Correct. Okay. Because electrical aggregation really wasn't ComEd. Yes. You had all these.
Right. Everyone else.
Ultimately, electricity comes through ComEd regardless of whom you purchase your electricity from.
So which leads to my next concern is there won't be all this door-to-door things in the mail, phone calls from like there were for the ComEd.
Gas is not, it's not desegregated, is it?
No. This is strictly, the franchise agreement is strictly approved at the board level.
Okay. And I'm just trying to break it apart from what we experienced because it was a good thing at first, the electric aggravation. It was a good thing at first, and then it sort of got watered down big time. And
yeah, the market caught up, absolutely.
And I'm just trying to compare the two that they don't really compare, right?
No, it's a very different situation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Any other questions?
Left, right.
If there are no other questions, so time frame, Mr. Ferrillo? You think a year?
Probably a year outside in, hopefully sooner, but that would be the outside term.
Is there a rough estimate of the ultimately the top number of municipalities you think you might get?
Well, we're talking to the.
I know we've got your.
We have 4.
Lines.
We're talking to the West Central Municipal Conference. I'll be talking to the Northwest Municipal Conference. We're hopeful for over 20, but we'll certainly get as many as we can. And all that you get, we'll share the legal fees. So it's definitely a benefit.
Better.
Yep.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Brady, roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Harker.
Yes.
13C,
Yes, ma'am.
discussion regarding concept review for senior housing plan unit development, Opus Development Company, and Allegro Senior Living Vacant Parcel southwest corner of Lake Cook Road and Milwaukee Avenue.
Who's that? Mr. Spondilis, please.
Thank you, President Horker. Typically, I would begin by reading a statement that kind of sets the table for what a concept review is. But because we don't have the ability to see anything, would you like to move forward, or how would the board like to handle this? Move forward as planned?
Here, they're
Do the
here.
petitioners have anything?
Can
I
you,
mean, if they have something, we can see.
You're okay with no one can reference anything?
I think it's.
could be back up.
I can
We are?
reference
think
mine
so.
now.
Try again, I'm in my annotation, so
I can't.
it still says connection to the server may have been lost, but I think it's lying to me.
I mean, I can see mine.
I think he took off.
All right, great. Well, then I'll
He
read,
just
I'll
left.
read my statement. The current request is for a non-binding approval of the proposed land use. The feedback by the board will be used by the development team as a guide in the preparation of the formal land use plan. The outcome of this evening shall not constitute a formal approval or denial of the application. The decision by the board tonight is non-binding and shall not prevent the applicant from moving forward with a formal application. The way we have run these in the past is that Community Development Director Jennings will provide a project overview and an introduction of the petitioner. The petitioner will provide the board a presentation. We will go back to CD Director Jennings for any discussion on zoning, special use, site plan concerns, and any input from Economic Development Director Milanofi. And then that gives the board all the information in order to ask the petitioner any questions they may have. So I guess by way of introduction then, Andrew, if you would.
Sure, thank you. The applicant, in this case, is a combination of the Opus Development Group partnering with Allegro Senior Living. The project area is the southwest corner of Milwaukee and Lake Cook. Property in total roughly 17 acres. The proposed development would occupy approximately 7 acres of that 17-acre site. The location would be provided access via the bridge that was discussed earlier tonight from Wolf Court, as well as an additional right-in, right-out access from the Lake Cook Road ramp as you leave Lake Cook Road going toward Milwaukee Avenue on the eastbound side. The proposal is for, as Manager Spondilis said, this involves the concept review of a PUD. The first stage of our 3-stage PUD review process is this concept review. As was mentioned, it's a non-binding review that provides guidance to the petitioner as they prepare for the formal preliminary PUD application. I'll be introducing them in just a second, but the proposal really is the first time for the board to provide feedback for them as they prepare all of the different layers. So at this time, what you're seeing does not necessarily include a lot of the additional layers, the landscape plan, et cetera. It's not fully engineered at this point. It is to provide feedback so that they can evaluate the concept plan and make decisions on how they would approach the formal stage that follows this stage. It is a mixed-use zoning district. The project itself is a mix of assisted living, independent living, and memory care units. They have a total of, let me see, a total of 180 units. 25 would be memory care, 65 would be assisted living, 90 would be independent living. The building is built in 4 wings. The 3 wings to the northeast are 5 stories. The wing to the southwest is the memory care wing. It's a 1-story wing. You would come into the site, as I said, from either the Lake Cook ramp or the bridge from Wolf Court. With that, I think I will leave it up to the petitioner to introduce the project. And as Manager Spondilis said, we do have some comments on the site plan and the zoning following their presentation.
Good evening. My name is Mike Youngerman. I'm Vice President and General Manager of Opus Development Company here in Chicago. With me tonight, who will be up speaking, is Spiro Love from Allegro Senior Living and Dean Newens from Opus Architects and Engineers. Does this scroll through the slides here? Okay, great. I'm not going to spend much time discussing who Opus is. We have information in our packet that describes that for a matter of time. I do want to say that we spent considerable amount of time. We initiated conversations with the village back in March. We sat with the staff and reviewed our contemplated plans with the staff at that time, and spent a considerable amount of time between now and then trying to reconfigure the site and get it in the right location, working with the land seller on the overall 17 acres, as well as trying to coordinate the exact locations of the Wolf Street Bridge, or the connection bridge, and then also the right in, right out off of the interchange at Lake Cook Road. Just quickly, I'm going to right away just get right into the other participants here. Spiro Love is the, with Allegro Senior Living, give a little more details on the operations for Allegro and what we do from the senior side and what this project will entail.
Thanks, Mike. I just wanted to speak quickly about Allegro Senior Living. We are joint venture co-developers with Opus on this project. We also develop communities on our own. We have a 40-year developing and operating history. This slide describes where our existing communities are. And I want to underscore, excuse me, I want to underscore that you know, we've been looking at dozens of sites with Opus in this area, and we have a very sophisticated site selection and market analysis process, and that's why we're here tonight, because we think this is an excellent site for what we do, and that is independent living, assisted living, and memory care. It's called continuum of care in the industry, and the concept is that once a resident moves in, they stay in that community as they need more care. And we've been lucky to have success with that model. I think it prevents a resident having to move when the acuity increases. There are a lot of things we like about this site: the access, the visibility, and the demographics. We've taken a hard look at the market, and we want a community that's going to fill up quickly and stay full. We also manage the property. We want to be managing this property in 10 years, so we are not looking to simply develop and move on. So with that, I'm happy to answer more questions about any aspect of our business. I understand we have a short amount of time for this, and I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Dean.
Good evening, Mr. President, trustees. Thanks for the time. My name is Dean Newens. I'm with Opus. I head up the architecture and engineering group for our company. And what we'd like to do is just share a little of the beginning of our process here. We're in concept review. Do I have control of the slides, or? You do. Sure. Great, perfect, thank you. And as we're all now stakeholders in this this project. We see it as a very important additive to the community. And as we think about how this project nestles into the rest of the existing businesses and residences, how do we make this better together? So we've been working with staff over the last few months to work out some of the logistics and access to the site as it relates to vehicles. But as you think about the site and you look at it in its whole, it's really part of a community. And one of the things that we strive for is that pedestrian experience, and how do pedestrians move through the site and access some of the other amenities on the site. And so we're in the early stages of figuring that out. But one of the things to keep in mind, as Sproul just mentioned, is this is an active residential community, adult community. Half the units are independent living of our 180 proposed units. And those folks will be in and around the community and creating that energy that we look for in any good community. So this, while this diagram represents that 500-foot look that we look at to see how we access the site and how it fits into the macro, this is really tells a lot about how we're using the site for this use. There's some quick context pictures here. I think some items of note as I roll through these is that we understand that the zoning is a 3-story zoning. We're looking for 5 stories. And as you look at these other buildings, our closest neighbors are at that height or taller, and we feel contextually that that's an appropriate application in this case. I want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about this plan, the site plan that you have before you. There's a couple key elements here that are important in this prototype that we like as a use. You'll notice that it has these fingers, and that really benefits this hub that's in the middle of the building, which is the energy of the inside of the building, this atrium that we put in the building that allows residents to move towards the center and interact with each other. The dining rooms are there, the libraries are there, the card rooms are there. And so that really, that walking distance from the edge of these fingers, if you will, towards the center really creates that energy within the building. But another very important part of this building is the way that it's designed is to create outside spaces that are both active, celebratory from an arrival standpoint, but then also to create courtyards and private places for the residents to move around. The memory garden that you see in the lower left-hand corner is really there for our memory care. It's an important part of that stage of life and having that confined but really tranquil area to live in. The rest of the site has outdoor spaces with gazebos and park benches and quiet places, but also activated spaces like the pool that you see there. There's separate entrances for independent living and for the assisted living. Part of that is that people are living together, but they also have different experiences, and we want to be respectful of that, and that's why we have multiple entrances. And as I mentioned, now we're just starting to work with planning to figure out the how this building and this site interfaces with the rest of the community and create that walking experience, that walkability score, if you will, that works into the existing conditions. We've taken an early step at just understanding the conceptual materials that the city likes to use. This is a representative image. It's not the final design of the building, but what it does is it hits that 50% brick mark. It has the 3 materials. It starts to show you how the building breaks down in scale, how the atrium might be experienced with this glass element in the middle that has this inside-outside, this activated experience. So we want to share with you early, recognizing that we haven't designed the building yet. These are some of the buildings that we've done similar to this in other markets, but we've applied your zoning to this building. One of the other elements that's really important here is the quality of the product that we're going to design and build here. And you can see the individual units and how they're amenitized from a furniture standpoint. And then I think even more important is what the shared spaces look like. The outdoor living spaces and the indoor spaces, fireplaces and libraries and active spaces for people. There's a bistro and an indoor gathering space for happy hour, if you will. So we've got, it's a really active environment we're trying to create, again, both inside and outside. I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Andrew? Mr. Jennings?
Sure, thank you. I think one of the issues that we had in reviewing this development is you have a site that has some constraints in terms of its physical configuration. It is not a rectangle. It has constraints in terms of access. It has constraints in terms of the impact of the topography of the site. So I think what you're seeing is the development team's attempt to address a lot of those concerns on this initial plan. The concern that the staff had primarily with the configuration of the building on the site is this site, being a 17-acre site, has the potential for additional development. And by placing this building in this location, does the end result of that configuration maximize the remaining development potential of the site? And the thing that I think was of a concern for the staff looking at this is the area that is at the northwest corner. If you look at the wing that goes to the northwest, there's a concern that area really divides the site into the remaining developable land into two pieces, a north piece and a south piece. The south piece is the portion of the site that does have some additional engineering concerns on it. As you know, there have been considerable efforts to grade this site and maximize the developable area. The southwest quadrant here is the portion that does still have engineering issues to resolve, wetland, et cetera, topography. There's a drop-off in grade as you go toward the southwest, which leaves the north third, basically. It's about 3 acres, 3.5 acres. That area is not particularly deep. It has about 500 feet. They have maximized the frontage along Lake Cook Road, but what you have is a triangular site, which, again, this is not to say it's not possible to develop that, but it does somewhat limit the universe of potential co-occupants of this total 17-acre site. So that was one of the primary concerns. If you it looks like you'd like to address that before I say anything else.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's a dialogue, so I appreciate that. I think one of the things, so we had the staff report this morning, had a chance to look at it and brainstorm coming out of that. And one of the things that we thought would be helpful is let's look at this holistically. Let's master plan the site and show how the site used, and make sure we haven't pinched ourselves into a dead corner, and let's see how the other pieces would work. And again, apply itself to this mixed-use environment we're trying to create. One of the realities is that the right in, right out off the ramp is a fixed location. It can only be in that spot, and that's driving the circulation of the site. If I was to turn this to that other plan, you'll see that while it appears to be a corner, the access point really cuts that corner, is the corner, and starts to create a more usable site. But totally agree, we have some work to do to refine the shape of the site and how the other uses, and we thought maybe what we could do is work with staff to continue to develop how these uses with these constraints of wetlands and topography apply.
Sure. I think also, just moving on with the site plan itself, some of the infrastructure, the positioning of the infrastructure, you see the bridge that we've talked about again this evening, being at the east end of this site. The unknown future development of the remaining portion might require better access to that bridge than this particular development does. Just one of the other considerations related to positioning on the site that staff had a concern with. There are several instances in the concept review materials where the development team makes mention of pedestrian amenities. As they've discussed here this evening, that has not been fully fleshed out yet. The village does have plans to continue with the pedestrian network, specifically pathway along the diversion channel connections to the east. There's opportunities for connections to the developments in the surrounding area that aren't reflected on this yet. It was one of the items that we had mentioned from the staff review. There are, let's see, as the petitioner noted throughout the original presentation, they do have significant green space on the property. They have placed a good portion of the proposed parking within the structure itself, which opens up the land area for amenities as well as just general green space. The staff had no major concern with that. The original concept here does include several variations that would be part of the PUD process. We haven't really gotten into the support for those variations. That's one of the items that we would need to work through moving forward. The parking ratio that's been suggested at this stage doesn't have the support that it would need going on later in the development review, preliminary PUD review process. With that, I think that is the gist of the staff review as it relates to the site plan and the overall development concept. There are some items to work out. There are the variation items that would be included in the package, as well as the site configuration, access to the parcel, and where it fits into the pedestrian network.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Questions from the board at this point? Or, no, wait, Mr. Malenefi, you have some comments on general financing, job creation, et cetera?
Thank you, President Horker. We've met with the developer on a couple of occasions, and we really have not the TIF request hasn't been fully developed. Obviously, we believe that there will be some TIF request in the future. That remains to be seen. We did discuss in the memo the amount of TIF assistance that's already gone into this site, which was roughly $3 million. And so the board would have to look at this development based on the land use and determine whether a TIF incentive is required. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have trustee Papantos first with trustee Kruger next.
Thank you. I've got a lot of questions, so be ready for it. My concern, and I think Director Jennings pointed it out, is where you have located your site, that it appears to me when I went through this, you've basically left the other 10 acres as non-developable. That's a word.
It is.
And I'm concerned about what's going to happen. If this is going to be it on the site, then we need to know that. And are you willing to work with our staff and the property owners to change your configuration or move your building so that we can develop all of the site?
That's our intent in working with the landowner, is to optimize the site development potential. We have this road that's going to be shared to bring you back both through the ramp and across the bridge. That's essentially a loop road, if you will, that takes us to the rest of the site. What we'd like to do is study that with the landowner and staff and make sure that we're not cornering ourselves. But if it need be, we'll make adjustments to the site accordingly.
Thank you. On average, and I think this is for you, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, sir. How many public safety calls do you get at your other facilities, i.e. fire, ambulance, that are comparable in size? Because this is a problem for us. This is in a TIF district, so therefore we're not, as a village, going to see the tax increment come through, yet independent living, assisted living, memory care can bring a lot more calls.
The number that was in the memo that we saw this morning, actually it was a range, 75 to 90. I think that's a good ballpark number. I think it's important to note that you do have fewer calls with independent living. We have, that's a realistic range. I wouldn't want to throw out an exact number. It's hard to know. We don't operate properties in this area yet, so I would just say I think that number is realistic, and it's in line with what we've seen in other markets.
All right. What's the average age in your independent living group?
For the whole community, the average move-in age is about 82.
That's the move-in age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then how long before somebody moves to the assisted living section, on average?
Again, it's hard to say, probably 3 to 5 years. Often, assisted living it's a needs-driven service, so often we'll have people who will move in and go straight into assisted living. It's not that everyone goes independent living, and of course that's the case with memory care. But I met a 102-year-old woman in one of our independent living communities in Florida, and in memory care, we're still learning about dementia, and you often get people who are younger than 82 moving into memory care. There's a wide range, so it's hard to give you exact numbers.
Do you have a lot of couples moving into the independent living sector?
We have some. I wouldn't say a lot. I think at 82, you do have spouses who've lost their partners. So we provide, we're constantly adjusting that mix as we develop new properties, the mix of 2 bedrooms that we have and 1 bedrooms with den. Different markets have different tastes. So sometimes a couple will move in and they'll go into a one-bedroom plus a den, which is a larger one-bedroom. But we do have them, yeah.
Typically, how many of your independent living residents are still driving?
Well, we assume that they all do. I think the reality is we like to think it's a fun place to be, and they drive a little bit less than what we design. You know, we park typically one space to one unit, and we would rather be overparked. And of course, we work with municipalities on whatever the zoning requirement is, but a lot of our independent living folks do drive. Do they drive every day? Probably not.
But they have a car that needs to be
I wouldn't
parked.
say every independent living resident has a car, but we assume that we want to provide them with the ability to have a car and be independent. And, you know, we have on site, we have a lot of amenities. So people tend to stay in the communities, even with independent living.
Do you have a transportation like the small, I call them mini buses? but
Sure, yep.
Do you supply that?
We do,
Yep.
yep.
So that also will be parked on site?
Yeah, we typically have 2 vehicles like that. Often we'll have a sedan or and a mini bus or shuttle bus. It changes as we open communities, so we just make a calculation as to what the latest thinking is in terms of the demand for that, but we do provide that service, yeah.
I'm assuming in the independent living, the residents will have the opportunity for dining within the facility. In other words, they won't be cooking their own meals. They could have their dinner.
Well, actually,
Or-
in senior housing, typically the distinction between independent living and assisted living is that independent living will have a full kitchen. How much that gets used is hard to say. We like to provide excellent food and dining options, 2 or 3 dining options within one community. And typically, independent living will have a dining room, assisted living will have a dining room, and then we'll have a bistro or a cafe or different options. So.
What I'm getting at with this question is the number of employees you're going to need based on food service as well as care for the assisted living, and then obviously memory care, which takes a lot more employees.
So at the level of units that we're proposing, 180 units, it would be about 125 employees across the board. That's care staff, servers, maintenance, everything.
3 shifts? Or-
Yep.
Okay, and then is there overlap on the shifts? Because I can guarantee you, having had elderly parents in long-term health care facilities, parking can be a real problem for those of us who visit our parents on a regular basis. And I don't want to get into that where you're changing shifts and it's, you know, obviously not everybody leaves and then the next shift comes in. There's that overlap and you have visitors and people have no place to park. And I want to make sure that if you're building a facility, you have places for the visitors to come, for them to park, for your staff to park, that there is really no street parking around there. And it can be a problem. So that is something to think about with your development.
We want people to have places to park, you know, whether they're walk-ins looking to tour the community or family members visiting residents or staff. So that 1 unit to 1 parking space ratio that's what we found to work, because we don't want what you just described to happen at any of our communities. And that's something that I think we have as an advantage, is we have a long operating history, so we know what works. And that's worked for us.
I mean, and I think one thing that if you have centers in Florida and people have moved down to that area from this area, they may not have the family coming. I will tell you right now, if, you know, people around here put their loved one, you know, and they go into assisted living or memory care, they're going to be visiting. So please keep in mind that you are going to have family.
Oh, and we want
Visiting,
family.
yeah.
We think it, you know, that energetic, active environment that Dean discussed is something we encourage. So, you know, it's interesting. Our business is very local, and we find that the majority of our residents are living within a 5-mile radius and with family. So we welcome that, and we want to have enough parking for those folks, and we have a private dining room, and we have amenity space to accommodate visiting families, and we also have activities, so we welcome that. That's not a concern. That's something we think makes our communities lively and fun and a place people want to live.
Will you be coming to us for a liquor license? I'm serious. I mean, you talk about a bistro, you talk about these active groups. I don't want people running across the street to the Ram or Spears.
Yes.
Joel will ride the bike over with them, but that's about it. That was the next question.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And you're also showing an outdoor pool. That may work in Florida. I think you're going to be surprised at the number of people who won't be using your pool around here. It is limited in the amount of time, and as people age, they don't particularly like water that's not at least 90 degrees or something around that area.
We know that, and we're open to design changes, and we heat our pools even in Florida. So
that's what I was afraid of. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger, Trustee Vogel, you're after.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, welcome, and thanks for taking an interest in the Village of Wheeling. My first question is about need. Wheeling currently, and I had to think of this today, and I even Google searched it just because I don't know them off the top of my head. But Wheeling currently has 5 housing locations that, though they do not have all the elements of, what did you call it, continuum of care?
yes.
That Allegro will offer, but they offer senior housing and some sort of healthcare oriented, or have one or two of those 3 elements. We also have at least 5 apartment condo communities that are predominantly 55 and over. What made you pick Wheeling, and can you tell me why Wheeling needs one more?
Sure. On this point, our interests are aligned. We want to have it fill up quickly and stay full. So, I think those of you who have dealt with aging parents may have looked into the options. There are a lot of options. Some seniors stay home and get health care, home health care. I would make one point: 55 plus or active adult is a different product and a different cohort of potential residents. As I said, we have an average age that's much higher than that. We did a very detailed analysis, and when we screen a site, we look at income qualified seniors in a number of different age bands. We look at adult children. We obviously look at the competition. I'm on the development team at Allegro Senior Living, so I'm looking at sites all the time, and we again use our operating history to inform our development process. So we have a pretty good sense of lease up given demographics, and we have found that the target demographic in Wheeling is attractive compared to other markets in this area and compared to all of our 20 communities. So that model is pretty refined, and it's something we've been using for decades. So we feel pretty confident that there is a need. And we also did an independent third-party market study which verified that demand. There's not a lot of independent living product within the primary market of this site. And so we usually come in and we build the nicest building in the primary market, and we have been lucky to fill them up pretty quickly.
So you did these studies, and that will be then presented with the PUD approval once you decide if you're going through.
I think we're happy to share any specifics on the demographic studies we've done.
That would have been nice to have for this.
Okay.
Okay, next question. There was a question already about ambulatory EMS calls.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 75 to 90 calls. Is that per what?
Per year.
Per year.
Community-wide.
Right.
That was the number that the staff memo presented, and we looked at our historical numbers from our other communities, and that's a good ballpark range.
Now, we have a facility that has 2 of those 3 continuum of care elements moving in, or being built across the street. We have an agreement with them where they do some reimbursement. I'm not clear on the exact terms of that RDA, but would Allegro be willing to, if the impact is great, because it's in a TIF district, and that would be a relatively, I don't even know, I don't want to say high volume of calls. I don't know. Maybe we get lucky and everybody's super healthy. I don't know. But would you be willing to address a potential agreement that has some threshold of ambulatory care that is reimbursable to the village after?
So we read about that agreement with Whitley Wheeling, and we're interested to learn more about it. We want to work with you. We understand that people call 911 at our communities, and we're willing to work with you on that.
Yeah, we run a pretty skeleton crew. I mean, we're certainly meeting all of our requirements of the community, but another one of these perhaps is, I just want to be prepared, you know, for the use. So I hear you spoke already about how this 7-acre parcel of the total 17-acre site, it sounds like you're willing to work with potentially moving that around to get a little bit more development out of the entire 17-acre. The way this aerial is, it clearly looks like the bridge is your private drive, and I see how absolutely advantageous that is for your project, but I'm trying to understand how it will be advantageous for another use somewhere behind you. So I'm just wondering, is there willingness to move around a bit if it means there will be better chance of?
Sure, no, I think Dean did address this to some effect, but the roadway that you see from the Main Street Bridge that goes up to the Lake Cook Road ramp, and then on the northwest side of that road is meant to be I'm going to call it a private drive that has an easement that's meant as a public thoroughfare, not a private drive specific to this development.
Right.
The initial staff discussions were that, we would like that to be a public road, but understand that the village does not want to have another road to maintain and to own, that they would like it to be privately owned, and we're willing to take on that and have easement agreements with the neighboring property or the rest of the land to both own and maintain that property while allowing the public to utilize that as a thoroughfare.
Excuse me, would you have objections building that road to public specifications?
Not at all. We would not have an objection to that.
For your cover letter says, third paragraph down, last sentence, our vision as a developer is to ignite this area and create momentum for future retailers and residents. Can you explain even briefly how you plan to do that?
Sounds powerful, doesn't it?
Yeah, it got me to underline it.
So we're just in the early stages of that. We know that we want to use here that is part of a mixed-use environment. We have Rams across the street. We have other uses, retail uses. It's like a horizontal mixed use, if you think about it, where these uses are connected or next to each other and they stimulate each other. That's our goal, is to create that. And from my perspective as a planner, making sure that this is an active community through public use, people walking on the street, activating the street is what our goal is. And so we want to do that. I don't know if that's answering your question. There's work to do still. I mean, this is somewhat of while it looks very specific, it's a first stage in a planning exercise.
I'm just happy to hear the willingness out of all three of you that, you recognize that there are some staff concerns. I have some concerns, the impact on public safety is a big concern. So I want you to be open-minded to, figuring out some way to help us bridge that gap. And I think that's all I have.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Vogel, and then Trustee Lang, you're after.
Just a couple of questions. They talked a lot about variations they were going to request, and one of them was below the 625-foot minimum. What were you proposing?
That's triggered, it's somewhere in that
So 675 is zoning, we're at or near 625. Part of that is because of our 25 memory care units, which really aren't much bigger than a hotel room.
Right. Okay.
They're 380, 400 square feet, so it pushes everything down. But we also have a number of large two-bedroom units and such, and larger one-bedroom pluses.
Okay. It's suggested that there may not be TIF available. Would the project go forward without it?
I'm going to defer to my real estate colleague on that one.
At this stage, it's hard to say. We have to get into the further refinements of the plan and understand the true costs. The intention of us going into this originally was to try to keep what I would loosely call public improvements, the thoroughfare that's meant more for the public to be those sorts of costs, and then everything inside would be more on the private side. But we would really have to get into a little more of the details as we further this along and understand the true cost of this before we can make a specific request for any TIF and whether or not it works with or without it. But we're prepared to go through that process with you.
Okay. Thank you. Last question, or second to the last. I'm not sure how to state this, but do you have a guaranteed movement within the facility? In other words, if you have someone in independent living, do you give them priority to move into assisted living, or any guarantees that they don't have to leave the building to find it elsewhere?
So we do. You mean as opposed to another resident coming from the outside
Correct.
into assisted living? Yes, we do.
Okay. Have you ever experienced the independent living diminishing and the assisted living taking over?
You know, that's a
facilities?
trend in the industry. I mean,
Right.
if your community is 10 or 15 years old, that can happen, but we have great marketing folks, so our IL occupancies have remained high even on our legacy properties that are 15 or 20 years old.
Okay, good. I'm not sure if the last question is for staff, but they're talking about they want 5 stories versus the 3 permitted. What's the reason that only 3 are permitted?
I would answer, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's all about flight pattern to CEA. Is that accurate?
You're saying why not go higher?
Right.
I think that actually would be probably a question for them. At this location, they should be able to go higher if they.
Well, okay, let me rephrase the question. It says that they're asking for 5 stories versus we only allow 3. So it's not really their decision. It's something they asked for, but we're saying we only permit 3. So I guess my question again is, why do we only permit 3? We have higher buildings on that property site right now, considerably higher than 5.
The base for this zoning district is the B3 district. So the regulations, the bulk regulations, come from a combination of the R4 residential district and the B3 commercial district. So what you're seeing is a combination of 2 different parts of the zoning code coming together to form the sort of the baseline. In this case, between the B3 and the R4, they're proposing a residential building, so the base height is coming from that section, as opposed to if this was a commercial building, you'd see it come from that section. So it is not uncommon for a PUD to request variations to make the overall site package work, and that's what they'd be doing in this case.
Okay, so would we be wise to allow 5?
I don't see a particular reason that this site could not support a 5-story development
Okay,
of a
there's
residential building.
POAC or no Chicago Executive Airport?
No impact that I'd be aware of on this
Okay,
site.
thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Lang?
Thank you. So, over the last 20 years, I've seen a ton of plans and visions for this site in this area, this region. This wasn't quite one of them at this point. And that's not a huge problem, seeing something different. I understand the need for independent and assisted living. When it's well done, it is really nice, and it's a great amenity. This looks well done.
Thank you.
I'm just concerned with the site in general, and if we thought that the site was hard to access now, how do you vision the site and the build-out for the rest of the site being able to be accessed? And what do you vision for the rest of the site? Because without that vision, you know, we may have just your building there and a field.
100% hear you. Planning is challenging us to figure that out. We're going to work through that and make sure that this as a whole works well and they feed off. Each of these, let's say 3 sites feed off each other. We've got work to do there.
Will we see at a next stage those plans? And
yes, sir.
We see those ideas?
We'll work with the landowner and with staff to come through and solve this. There are environmental challenges here to figure out how the wetlands interface with these and how all the sites are visible. I mean, the benefit to the site that we have left over to the north and northwest has great visibility. So how do we take advantage of that and what uses work well there? So we have a little bit of work to do there, admittedly. We've heard that loud and clear from staff.
And with that, this is a question for staff. What are our property tax sacrifices on this site? Is the memory care portion, for instance, tax exempt? Or
I think that's a question for the developer. I don't know the answer to that.
Is the plan for the memory care portion be tax exempt?
This is the part I love about my job is I don't have to answer that question.
Oh, yeah, right.
I don't have the answer to that either. I think we're, you know, as I said, we have not developed senior housing in this area. So in our other properties, it is not tax exempt.
It is not?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you run as a not-for-profit or a
No, we're
for-profit
private,
corporation?
for-profit.
Yeah, and it would not be, then it would not
Okay.
be tax exempt.
Very good.
Sure, thank you.
And then I guess that's all of my questions for now. Maybe one last one and I'll give this to Brian with Michael's wisdom bestowed upon you, is what sacrifices are we taking on property taxes, for instance, for this type of use, if you know, or as opposed to other commercial or retail businesses?
Well, we as a village levy a dollar amount, so I don't know that there'd be necessarily a sacrifice from a property tax level as more so there would be in the sales tax area. So the focus on mixed use, I think, would be important to you from a financial perspective.
Okay. So with that, maybe some real good balance as well?
I believe the approach should be, we should come to the table with some good analysis from a tax consultant who can lay this all out and understand what this development would provide as far as additional taxes to the property and possibly even a comparison to comparable uses that are allowed for the zoning. So you can analyze that and we can analyze that together as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Brady?
Thank you. Just to follow up with Trustee Lang's comments, yeah, I think this property, the building has to be relocated on this site. You know, that 9.8 acres in the northwest corner there, it's a nice piece of property, but people are only going to be able to see it going down Lake Cook Road. You know, nobody's going to see it off of Milwaukee Avenue. If they see it on Lake Cook Road, it's going to be tough for them to get to. If your building could be set far west and maybe even northwest, and then leaving us the property that would be visible from Milwaukee Avenue and partially from Lake Cook Road, I think it'd be better for the whole property in itself. But that, you know, you guys get together on that. One last thing, I know you gave us a couple samples of brick and siding and stucco. Memory care building across the street is moving along pretty good. Take a look at the architect. It's almost all brick with some siding accents. It's a beautiful building. That's what we like to see. You know, virtually no maintenance. You know, it always stays nice and clean, and it's attractive and rich looking. So when you guys start designing your building, keep something like that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Anyone else? So we have a couple of questions before the board. Mr. Spondilis, you want to explain the questions that we have
Yes,
to
thank
answer?
you. There are two questions before the board. Both are consensus. The village board is being asked to provide non-binding feedback to the developer. The developer may choose to move forward regardless of the board's feedback. Question number one, we got fairly micro in the discussion about the building, but it looks like really the question though is much more macro, and that is the village board in favor of the concept for putting senior housing at this location?
So just the concept for the site. Clerk Simpson, you want to just do a roll call?
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
The second question, again, for consensus, if the project does move forward, is the board in favor of providing additional TIF incentive?
Ready, Clerk Simpson?
Trustee Brady?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't
Trustee
know
Vogel?
how much they're going to ask for. Yeah, you know, there probably are some items that are strictly TIFable if they need it. Other than that, I think we're just about out of money for that area. So I'd say yes, but to a limited point.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
No?
No.
Trustee Papantos?
No.
Trustee Lang?
I'll say no, but it also lean towards minimal.
I'll draw a line. Okay, Trustee Krueger?
No.
Trustee Vito?
I don't know what they want, so I'm with Trustee Brady. It's a maybe, which
It's a
I guess
maybe?
would be a yes in this situation, depending on what's asked for.
I'm going to do yes, no.
What
President Horker? President Horker?
No.
Oh, I got 2, 3. I have 4 no's and 3 maybes.
Does that give you clear direction?
Is that on?
Okay. We'll go to Florida and they can count Chads. And,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Liquor code review. Mr. Spondilis, the video gaming cafes.
Thank you. There are a couple of items
Thank you for
under
coming.
under the topic of liquor code review. First, as President Horker indicated, video gaming cafes. As the board knows, you had instituted some changes to what once was a gaming cafe cap of 3 licenses. Several months ago, the board voted to lift that cap. Since that time, there have been at least a couple of petitioners that have come before you asking to locate gaming cafes along Dundee Road. Those cafes were denied. At that time, it was requested by a member of the board that we host the discussion again about how we want to facilitate moving forward with issuing licenses or not. Really, there is no difference to the discussion that was had, the information that was presented last time. The only thing that I would say this time is when you consider what your options are, and of course this is a discussion that the board has to have amongst themselves, when you consider what the options are, there really are only 2 clear options. One would be to reinstate the cap, the other would be to continue free market. There are as many licenses as the board wishes to create. If the board is looking to reinstate the cap, that number could not be 3 anymore. 2 additional gaming cafe licenses have been issued, 1 to Maze, 1 to Eagle Cafe. So if the board is interested in a cap, the number would now be 5. You heard this evening earlier that there is another petitioner looking to come into town for a gaming cafe. I don't know that that should play into the decision, but you have 5 right now, 3 that are open, 2 that are opening. So please consider that when you discuss whether or not a cap is a appropriate response. With that, I think staff is available to answer questions, but really this is a discussion amongst board members.
Trustee Papantos first, followed by Trustee Lang.
Thank you. The reason I originally asked to lift the cap on video gaming cafes was because I saw on a regular basis people coming in with business plans that only disguised the fact that they were indeed a video gaming cafe. We saw a lot of different things. It was, oh, I'm going to sell special soup. I'm going to sell, I'm a deli. I'm going to do this. They were indeed video gaming cafes. I'd rather know what I'm getting. The video gaming cafes that we have in town, and I admit I have not been in, but I have seen the plans, are well run. They look nice. They know what they're doing, and they provide revenue to the village. They also fill empty spots within the village. We have way too many empty buildings, empty storefronts that are the perfect size for this particular venue that are going to remain empty unless we move ahead. I believe that the market will level out the gaming cafes, that when there are too many, they just won't be successful. If people aren't pressing that button, spinning that wheel, pulling that lever, they will pack up and go away, and it will self-regulate. I agree, I don't want to see one on top of the other, making a little casino, but I believe most shopping centers or strip malls go into an exclusivity agreement with the video gaming cafes. For instance, when Stella's went into the Fresh Farm Shopping Center, they reached an exclusivity so that there would not be another gaming cafe in that shopping center. That's up to the shopping center, not up to us. I don't want to see putting a cap on and then having people come back in and we're going to get the same thing that we've had before. They're just going to present a different business model that is not quite a video gaming cafe, but in reality it is.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang, Trustee Vito, you're after.
Thank you. I'm very much in favor of a cap in this particular case. I think we did ourselves a disservice by removing that cap before. These folks will still come and they'll still fill those storefronts as they did before. As I was saying in the past, we voted to lift the cap on the gaming locations. These facilities were forced to provide a better product, better amenities, and restaurant options to comply. Without a cap, we get the bare minimum, and that's what we're getting. And we're getting places one on top of the other. We saw that all over at, although they're different shopping centers, it all happened right across from the old Kmart property. And one on top of another, and they were just the bare minimum. And that's why I think a cap would provide what we used to have. And I know these places came in as a restaurant disguised as a gaming facility. I know, we all know that, okay? But we got a better product out of it. We did get a restaurant. If you look, I did peek into the Bella's Bistro that's in Arlington Club Commons. Place looks beautiful inside. One of these days they'll open. I don't know what's keeping them from getting it's all about their gaming licenses, I guess. But it's really nice inside. It seems like they're going to offer a better product overall. If we didn't have that, look what happened with the soup guy. I was going to say something else. The soup guy. Let's just leave it at that. But he walked out on us because we changed the rules, and then he blamed it on us. That, oh, you guys changed the rules, so I'm going to come in with the bare minimum. Big slap in the face for us. And what we're going to get is the bare minimum in that shopping center. So, like I said, I'm very much in favor of putting this cap at 5 where we're at now. I still believe these places will come. Overlook the fact that they're coming disguised as a restaurant, because we are getting a better product. when they do come. Look at the difference between the places, and you'll see. So I truly believe, like I said, in favor of that cap. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Vito.
Yeah, Mary, I love when someone else speaks a little free market capitalism. That's very nice to hear. The problem with this, with us removing the cap, is we're going to be back in the same spot. And I don't know if it is a better product, Trustee Lang. The Stellas are not crummy places. I don't know if you've been in any of them. They're nice-looking cafes. These guys are just going to come and do nice-looking cafes, like the guys with the bistro, like the soup guy. They're just going to do it, beguiling us, tricking us to try to, well, that's not very good, but they're going to do it, trying to get us to, approve what is essentially a gaming cafe. The problem I'm seeing now, what I saw tonight, was even when they do that, it looks like we have 4 votes against it. If you're saying the Karma guys tonight were doing that, you voted no on them. I thought you voted no. Right. So they were here trying to fool you with a better product, which was a bar and their food and all that, and you still voted no.
Wait a second, though. Not a better product.
I get it, but you were voting on a special use at that point. But regardless, Trustee Brady's definitely going to be against anything with any cafe with a V behind it or any restaurant with a V behind it in their alcohol license. I don't know if we're going to have the votes to sustain it. So now we're going to say, okay, come in. We're going back to the old thing where, you can get a liquor license and then you can get a gaming license as long as you pretend that you're not a video cafe, and then they're going to come up here and they're going to get shut down again. Just like, and it was worse when we actually lifted the cap, and then we had the people come in and we didn't vote for it. It was pretty bad. So I don't know if that's going to work, if that's sustainable. I think we need to make a bigger, broader decision. I don't know if we can go back. Are we going to shut down gaming, or are we going to do this? We can't go back, I guess.
And that wasn't the intent, to shut it down. If you guys don't mind that we're
I like the
discussing
dialogue.
it
No,
this
that's
way.
fine. This is good. I think it's good.
So I don't believe we're shutting it down at all. I think we're just taking a step back to what we originally had in this town. And the Stellas are nicely done, but we're not getting, and they're national organizations, we're not getting those national groups in anymore. We're getting independents, or we're getting, places that have 1 or 2 uses, and they're not really developed as well as the Stellas is. They don't compare. And even the Stellas, if you look at it, that's just microwave sandwiches and, like everyone's saying, a small case with bottled beer in it. Nothing special. But you look at when you have to force the issue and say, you got to come in with a better product. Then you get a place like Bella's, and I wish it was open so you could see yourself what the place looks like inside and what kind of product they have. And I think it's much better.
Hold on.
So
isn't that capable even without the cap? Isn't that like we saw the picture?
Yeah, but it's not necessary, though.
Okay.
It's not necessary. You can come in with the bare minimum. All that with the cap requires you to do more to that facility. Am I
Trustee Vito?
right?
No, there's a couple other people need to talk. Trustee Vito, you want to?
Yeah, my
John
problem
says
is we haven't put that to the test yet. Bella's is the only one I know of, and the soup guy, and neither have been in operations. I don't know what's going on with Bella's. And I'm not convinced that Bella's is going to be better than Stella's. So I don't know. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But to my point that I made before, I think there's now 4 votes against gaming in general on this board. And if someone comes in for a special use for a tavern, say Bill, whatever his name is, that wants to do Munich, I think we might get a no vote on it, just as on the license and on the tavern itself. So I don't like sending mixed messages to people, having them waste their time. Lawyers are expensive. Whatever else they got to get these sites up are expensive. The plans are expensive. And then they come here and we say, we don't know what we're doing and we can't give you any direction. it's a problem. And it's not good for the village, it's not good for the petitioners. And I just think whatever we do tonight, I'm for let it go. And I'm with my capitalist friend here, Adam Smith, who thinks that the market will take care of this. I think it will. And it's the same reason I'm with the memory care as well. I mean, I think it's saturated too, but the market will take care of it. So let it go. But whatever we do, I think we need to be clear and we need to stick to it tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Vogel, and then Trustee Brady's after, and then Kruger, you're...
Okey-doke.
Sorry.
There's some statements made that, the market will take care of them. I don't like the idea of inviting someone in knowing they're going to fail or hoping they'll fail because the market will take care of it. We got to go back to reality. There's only so many dollars in this town, okay? And if it's being spent on gambling, it's not being spent on something else, okay? And I think we've reached a saturation point. If you look at the statistics, the gaming revenues are not going up, or our share of the tax is not going up like it did when we first started. It's just leveled off. There's no increase. Okay, so now we're basically agreeing that we're getting the fee, and that's it. Because, like I said, the tax we're collecting has just leveled off. It's not there anymore. It's not going up in leaps and bounds like it did when we first started. And the other thing, if we go back to the intent of the law, and I go back to this again, the intent of the law was to help existing businesses during the recession. These places were going out of business. It kept some businesses active and alive. And now we're bringing in strangers who, quite frankly, don't give a damn about our community. They're out there for the almighty dollar, and we're accepting that, okay? If our intent is to become the Midwest, the Las Vegas of the Midwest, let's just open it up and get anybody that walks in the door a license and do it. But I don't think the residents want that, and I don't think we as a group should want that, okay? I'm all for free enterprise, all right? But we know how these guys have come in here and buffaloed us, okay? It's like a Bear fan telling me that the Packers were going to die on Sunday night. Really? You want to rethink that statement?
You just had to put that in there.
Told me that. So it's just getting to the point where I don't think we need any more at this point in time. And if it was up to me, I'd put a cap on them, period. It doesn't matter what they are. How many more can we absorb? Free enterprise or not? How many more banks can we absorb? How many more, any type of establishment can we absorb? It hits a certain point where you can't accept anymore. And that's the way I feel, but might be in the minority.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Brady, and then Trustee Kruger.
Thank you. I told you my initial reaction was to video gambling to help our established businesses survive, but this has turned around on us. To be quite honest with you, I don't know where all this money's coming from. I live in my old town, and I frequent going down Willie Avenue off of Dundee quite a bit. I never see anybody in Stella's. More often than not, I see the manager sleeping on one of the tables. Yet, you get a chance to look at the revenue that they bring in there. It's astronomical. If that's the case, then where's the percentage of food that they're supposed to be serving? These places are like deserted. And you wonder, well, what the heck is going on? What's this all about? It must be very lucrative to somebody, because more and more and more people they're getting innovative on how to call them, whether it's a cafe or a bar, a tavern, a liquor store, whatever the case may be. And then, okay, so now you put gambling in there. Grocery stores want to put gambling in there. Gas stations want to put gambling in there. Where do we end this? What we got to do? It's all about gambling. It's nothing else. You can hit it from every side with a stick. It's all about gambling. So why don't we just limit the machines that we put in and let these other people come in with their cafes and open them up without machines?
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Kruger, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. And Trustee Brady, I appreciate you bringing up the number of terminals, but I did approach staff and ask if there was a way that because I wanted to find out what was the real problem. Was the problem that the board is having with this topic that they just hate gambling cafes? or the number of terminals that are growing in the community. And I got feedback that it was the number of terminals. So sadly though, Managers Fondilas did find out for me that the state won't allow us to limit the number of terminals. Because I thought right now we have 62 terminals, maybe we set our own saturation level and just say 100 terminals. But we can't do that, so it's neither here nor there. Like Trustee Papantos and Trustee Vito are saying, I just feel that brick and mortar retail is going away. We have lost a restaurant, a longtime restaurant, who put 3 terminals in his restaurant, which will put 3 terminals and a BV license back into the mix. But we lost that. We lost Sam's Club. We've lost, we're losing some retail element, and the tax revenue is, where is it going to come from if not for this? I feel like the Liquor Control Commission power is in the issuance of the license. We look at the project, we get to see what it looks like when we decide if we're going to give them a license or not, and not to discriminate against any type of use that wants to have gaming, because what if somebody in town center, what if one of the restaurants in there wants gaming? Are we going to say no? I'm just trying to get the rest of the board to at least think that the power in your vote is the license. If they don't have the license, they can't go and ask for a gaming license at the state. So it's our power not to give them the license. The project needs to fit. It needs to work. It needs to not be too close to something else. It needs to not be, on top of another gaming cafe, or, you know what I mean? I just wanted to state that I think the most important thing we might be losing here is that the power in issuance is the issuance of the license itself, because if you don't grant the license, they can't get the games. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Krueger. Trustee Papantos, then Trustee Vogel.
Thank you. A couple things that I want to go back on. In Trustee Lang, you talked about getting more out of some of these places. When Stella's first came to Wheeling, and they were the first quote-unquote video gaming cafe, I was not on the board. However, I was in the audience for every meeting. Stella's did not present as a video gaming cafe. Stella's presented as an upscale cafe. And that's what they sold the board on. We're an upscale cafe coming in, and we just happen to have some gaming machines. But it wasn't a video gaming cafe. The upscale cafe was going to sell, I believe, beer and wine, and, for lack of a better term, microwave food. I don't think they use a microwave, but they don't have a kitchen. They don't require a grease trap. And we got quite a bit out of them, per se. It is a nice-looking place. No, you don't see people eating there, Trustee Brady, because that's not what people are going in for. And they don't the gaming revenue is not part of the 50%. You take the total amount of food, non-alcoholic beverages, and alcoholic beverages, and you have to be over 50% of non-alcohol and food. That's the rule that we've established on the the video gaming cafe. I think we can go there. Trustee Vogel, you spoke about the fact that in the beginning these grew and we saw a lot of tax revenue coming up. I contend that the reason we saw the increase in tax revenue is because we were adding machines on a regular basis, and it takes a while for the state to grant the license and the machine to become operable. So from the beginning, when I think Stella's were the first ones, we might have had 15 machines, and now we're up to the 62. It took a while to get there. We have leveled off because I don't think we've seen any new machines going into operation, or maybe 5 in the past 6 months. So I'm not sure that we've leveled out. I'm also not sure that it's just Wheeling dollars per se being spent there. At some of the local establishments, like Market Square, as Trustee Vito talked about, yes, those are locals. Those are the people who are in there, they're enjoying it. Some of the other places, it could just be somebody who's, I like this particular machine, I like the game. There's different people choose to spend their disposable income in different ways. We could put a cap on nail salons if you want to limit disposable income. We can put a cap on a lot of different things that people are using income and not spending it elsewhere. But at the same point, we are getting something back from this. And that's why I suggested lifting the cap in the first place. I want to know what we're getting. I want to be able to ask for the best at all times. But I don't want to just put an arbitrary cap on and then be lied to.
Done? Okay. Thank you, Trustee Vogel.
If you go back and look at the statistics, we had 52 at the end of 16, I believe, and we had a certain dollar amount. At the end of 17, we had 62, and the dollars went up like $3,000, less than 1%. So maybe they weren't in operation for the whole year, but there were 10 more machines and very little increase in revenue. The other thing is, Jim, can you explain further the 50% rule?
Sure, I think Trustee Papantos covered it pretty well. You take the total revenue generated by alcohol, non-alcohol, and food. And to be a cafe, not a gaming cafe, just a cafe, at least 50% of that revenue, so 50% or more, has to be related to food and non-alcoholic beverages. That would qualify you as a cafe.
All right, and how do we enforce that rule?
We have the right to request whatever documents, reasonably request whatever documents we believe are necessary to confirm that. Financial statements, records for a given year. We can request an audit of the business per
And
code.
if we request an audit and we find out that they don't meet the 50% rule, can we take their license away?
Yes, we would have to initiate a hearing before the Liquor Control Commission, send a notice of the hearing, and indicate why the hearing is being held, that we're looking to pull their license. And evidence would be presented, and you would make a decision as to whether or not to pull the license.
All right, I'd like to see a staff start to enforce that then, because if it's the rule, it's the rule. If we're not going to enforce it, then let's remove the rule, one or the other.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Lang?
So, volleying back to this, and trustees free enterprises over there. This is acceptable to you, is what we had presented today? I mean, as a project? And
Yeah, it's better than a vacant storefront.
no, better than something is not better.
Yes, it is by definition.
No, it's not. It's not a quality product, okay? And I can't see approving projects like that aren't of quality at all. And this one screams no quality. Okay?
Trustee Lang, if I may volley, that's why I voted no to the license to this one, and I voted no to the special use, because it didn't meet a criteria that I thought fit. And I knew that my power was in my vote for the license. But I lost on that one.
Then we're getting back to what Trustee Vito said. We're inviting all these people in, and then we're turning them down.
Okay, but I will say to that I won't turn every project down.
Well, neither will I, but we're getting back to what Vito says, is you invite these people in, they spend their money, and they come in with this, and we turn them down.
Okay.
And it's not fair to them.
Well, they need to know that they can't come in with this.
Right.
Okay, that's the problem. Come in with a quality product, and I'll approve it every day. Okay, because I have no problem with bringing in businesses, but I want good businesses.
All right, and then John and staff tells them, we want a quality product, and they say, we don't care what you want, we're going to take it to the trustees anyway.
So then we say no.
Don't they have the right to do
We
that?
have the power to say no.
So,
And you don't
but
give
that's
a
what I'm saying, is they're still going to come up here, and then we're going to say no, and then, again, they spend all this money, and I'm not for it at all. I think we should just put the cap on and be done with it, but it just, you're gonna always have that argument that Trustee Vito's making, is that you're bringing people in.
No, this is our discussion, but thank you. So, and I, like I said, I will not turn down every future plan proposal just because of even if we have a cap or don't have a cap. To me, it's all on quality product. And I don't think the last couple that we've gotten and the ones that we've turned down last month were of quality at all.
Yeah, but this is a storefront in a shopping center. I mean, it's not the Bellagio. They have a bar, they have some tables, they have some chairs. I mean, what do you want them to do? Have the curtains in?
Make it nicer.
Countertops? I mean, right.
Make it
but I
nicer.
mean,
You deserve nicer.
I get it, but they're not going to be able to afford to come in here with some beautifully drawn, engineered thing, and now we're going to have a vacant storefront because we're outpricing our market. No one wants to go in there. Someone does, and they have a plan, and I understand it's very minimalist, but so is the storefront itself, so is every gaming cafe or fake pretend gaming cafe is a very minimalist thing. So I don't need to see that they have granite countertops and mahogany chairs. We're not going to get that.
You want that swing vote from me, I will do it every day if it is of quality product. If it's not, I don't want to hear.
But this particular instance that you're citing.
And the last two.
Okay, well, let's talk, this one is for a tavern, so it doesn't have anything to do with the cap on video gaming cafes at this point. I mean, you've explained why you said no to this one, and as Trustee Kruger said, we can say no to everything by not granting a liquor license. You cannot get video gaming through the state without that liquor license. That's a given. Now, I disagree that June's was not a quality product, per se. I thought it was well presented. I thought the plans were good. I think they showed what they have at other locations. So I'm not sure how much quality we can demand before we really, as Trustee Vito said, price people out of the market. It's hard to draw the Bellagio.
Well, in that case, it was a bad location. It was.
But it was a quality product.
They were two locating right next to each other, and at that point, it seemed that's when this cap thing started really bothering me and going against what the original spirit of this was, and to help existing businesses do better. And all of a sudden, we lifted that cap and it opened the floodgates, and now every shopping center can have a gaming facility, which we proved is not a bad thing on our police department, or and it'll help on with revenue, but I don't know, does it look right?
See, but here's the problem if we don't come up with a concrete plan. We're going to be back where we were, because certain people on this board are going to vote no because it's gaming. And our petitioners are not going to know. You could be a swing vote, but we're still going to have 4-3 votes, 3-4 votes, depending on how you're swinging that day. And we're not going to be able to give the people that are coming to us any predictive
G rating.
kind of analysis of what they can expect from the board, and that can be costly to them, and it can make staff's life kind of miserable, which it probably has been in terms of this gaming stuff for ever since we lifted the cap and then unlifted the cap and did everything that we're doing. So whatever we do, like I've said a couple times, I just hope we make a concrete decision and we stand by it, whatever it is.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Brady, and then Trustee Kruger again.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm getting discouraged. Gambling to some people is a disease. They get started on it, they can't stop. I sit at Market Square quite often. I'm looking at the people playing the machines there. I know most of them. And I tell you, a few of them can afford to lose. But there's some of them that can't afford to lose. As a matter of fact, one of my friends lost his house, his car, is now living on public aid because he couldn't stop gambling. So we're going to put these machines all over town for people like that to go in, to take their retirement check or whatever they got, go out there and try to make their way, try to win the big one. And they're never going to do it. because if they do it once, they're going to go back, and the machine will get it back. Listen, this is not a lucrative business, and for us, as a Village of Wheeling, to sit here and talk about, boy, this is a way for us to get more money, I think is dishonest. I really do. I think it's a disgrace for us to count on gambling on the backs of our people that live here and work hard to support this village and pay their taxes and everything, to give us a little more, because now we got them hooked on gambling. I'm sorry, I can't approve this. I'll never vote for it anymore. And I don't know. I wish the rest of you could think about that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you. I would challenge you, Trustee Brady, that alcoholism kills too.
Well,
and I'm not,
so
but I'm,
driving a car, you know.
I'm not the morality police, and I'm not going to tell people that they can't drive their cars either. It's an allowance, and I think it's, like I said, in the license. The only reason I wanted to speak again was because after the petitioner that came during citizens' comments and concerns from Tracy's, I challenge you to look at their site and their gallery of their product. I would like to see them, go through the rest of the process and come before and take that chance. But isn't that what we do here every single Monday, is vote yes or no? And life is a 4-3 vote, and what other euphemism do you want to use here?
It directed to me, so I...
Kind of.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Trustee Brady just made my point. Now we have someone who's going to be against gambling no matter what for the sake of gambling. They should know that they have a board that is not conducive to gambling. How many of us are going to do that? I think Trustee Vogel's 2. Maybe Swing and Ray is 3. They're not going to know what's going on. I mean, we are giving a license. The license is, do we approve of this type of activity? I don't think we have a consensus on this board as to whether or not we approve of that type of activity, which is the problem. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean...
I hear you now.
That's my point.
Tristan, did you want one more?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. You sure? Horse is dead. Okay. I had an issue with this topic from the beginning. I didn't like the idea, the concept of the gambling cafes in town. I spoke with Trustee Papantos. I spoke with other elected officials. I realized I was trying to be the morals police for the town, and some of the other elected officials pointed out that it really is not my job to be the morals police. I do have issue with a saturation of these cafes, but I also have an issue with the saturation of the liquor licenses in general. I do not believe we need liquor establishments within staggering distance of each other. I don't believe it's our job to be the morals police, though. My issue with the one that we just turned down really was more the appearance than the use. I do believe we're here to do what is best for the community. I do believe Trustee Vito is right. We should be consistent, if nothing else. People do need to know what to count on when they come here. So towards that end, if we've beaten this long enough, Mr. Svandilis, we have a question. You want to read it, please?
This one's much more straightforward. Is the board desirous of reinstating the video gaming cafe license cap?
Does anybody need to say anything else? Thank you, no. Thank you, no.
Okay.
We'd like a yes. I'd like a yes or no.
Trustee Brady.
Cap it.
Cap. Trustee Vogel.
Cap it.
Trustee Papantos.
No cap.
Trustee Lang.
Cap.
Trustee Kruger.
No cap.
Trustee Vito.
No cap.
President Horker.
No.
No cap. So it's no cap.
Yes, I counted. Thank you.
Sometimes I pay attention.
Thank you. So there is no change to the code as written. Attorney Ferrolo has the second item under our discussion topic today. But before we transition to that, just since we're talking about code, as will he, there is potential for another question to come before the board. We have an industrial user. We have a commercial business who is a distillery in town, in an industrial section of town. They are considering coming to you asking for a tasting license. They would like to host tasting events at their facility. Again, they're a distillery. We are not at the point where we're ready to present that because they have not officially asked. They are looking through their business plan to see if that's something they want to pursue. I'm only bringing it up now because I know we like to wrap these code revisions into a single discussion as opposed to coming back every 2 weeks and asking, hey, do we want to change the liquor code again? So I'm just putting that out there that that is a discussion that we are having with a particular business. It's a reasonable request, happens in other communities, but we are not ready to bring that to you yet. Just wanted to, again, make you aware so that you knew in a couple of weeks to avoid the question of, why didn't you ask us last time? That's the reason. So with that being said, Mr.
Would
Froh.
they be considered a gaming cafe?
See? No, they would not.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, John. What I'm going to talk about, there's a provision in the village code currently, in the liquor code, that prohibits the issuance of a liquor license to an alcohol retailer located or to be located within 100 feet of a school, church, or military installation, basically, or military facility. That provision comes from the Illinois Liquor Code. It's been in the Wheeling Code for many, many years. It's in a lot of codes. On August 3rd, 2018, Governor Rauner signed into law an amendment to the state liquor code that provides that an exemption can be granted to the 100 feet restriction from a church, school, or military facility if a local rule, local ordinance, allows the local liquor commission or commissioner to grant such an exemption. So the question for you tonight is very, very straightforward. Would you like staff to bring to you an amended liquor code that gives this commission, or not this commission, the liquor commission, the right to grant an exemption to the 100 feet requirement if somebody asks for that type of exemption? Someone comes in, wants to establish a liquor store, like the Liquor Barn, but they're close to, they're within 100 feet of a school or church. That's where it commonly comes up. So that's the question. Would you like us to present you an ordinance that allows for that exemption with some criteria? I think it'd be a good idea to develop some criteria for you to apply such an exemption if we were to give one. So with that, it's pretty straightforward. I can answer any questions.
Questions, Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. 2 quick questions, Attorney Ferrello. Sure. If we allow for an exemption, are we bound to give it?
So you allow for exemption to a
We accept the new state code, and we say you can be, and somebody comes in and they're 75 feet away, but do we have to give them a liquor license?
I understand your question. No. No, what we would do, we'd amend the ordinance to allow the commission to decide whether or not to grant such an exemption. Bring the discretion to the commission, although I don't think it should be unfettered discretion. I would propose some criteria for the exemption that you consider if you were to get that type of an application. So the simple answer is no.
Okay,
would not be bound by it.
And when I went through in my head trying to think if there's any place as far as schools and churches in town that we could be 100 feet from the building, because I believe it said building to building on the code, I couldn't come up with any place that we'd even have to face this, to tell you the truth.
So far.
Right.
It doesn't apply to existing businesses. It's new businesses coming in, new alcohol retailers coming in that propose to be located within 100 feet of a school or church. It does not apply to restaurants or hotels where their principal business is not the sale of alcohol.
Right.
Where alcohol is simply incidental to their principal business. So we're mainly talking about liquor stores or taverns, which we talked about a little bit tonight.
Right. I don't want to go into that, but I can't even think of any place where a liquor store or tavern could go in and be 100 feet from the building unless something changes over. My second question is on the military facility. Would a recruiting station, which are often in storefronts, be considered a military facility? I'd hate to have somebody go into the tavern, get drunk, and next thing they know, they're in boot camp. Sorry.
I'd have to research that. The answer's not clear from the code. I'd have to take a look at that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other questions?
Somebody had to make you smile today.
Take a vote.
Please take a vote.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
No.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
I said yes.
Okay.
I said yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll bring you an ordinance back within the next few meetings to take a look at. Thank you.
That's it. Official communications. Earlier in the evening, we had a proposed ordinance brought to our attention that would allow gaming machines in a packaged goods facilities. Would anybody like to explore that?
How does it say it again?
Earlier this evening, a gentleman brought forward a ordinance from another town that allowed gaming machines in packaged good establishments. Would anybody like to review the code?
I mean, you want a 6-1 vote, sure. I'll gladly review it.
How about gas stations too, right away?
Church.
Yeah, church.
Church. So I'll take
Schools. Get them started early.
Thank you. Well, warm up the still. Earlier this evening, I stumbled through a little statement. I'd like to repeat it. I don't read statements very well. The fact of the matter is I do take the allegations against me very seriously. And for about 3 weeks, I researched how the forms are supposed to be filled out, exactly how the form was supposed to be categorized and reviewed. I personally contacted 3 people at 3 different assessors' offices to make sure what we were doing was right. Over the course of my investigation of the family farm, I can call it that, everybody knows where it is, it became very clear that there was a complete misinterpretation of the documents that have been presented. I'm very confident that what we're doing is completely legitimate. In fact, more than that, I do believe it appears as though we have been cheating ourselves over the last few years. So we will be going forward with this business as usual, and I will be amending the forms to the current appropriate categories that will actually be declaring more of the farm as farm. So, I mean, basically we've been cheating ourselves for a few years and we're going to sort it out. You have a question, Mr. Lang?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you, in fact, when you came on board as village president, have staff inspect your farm and?
Yeah.
And?
Yeah.
And?
Yeah, I started trying to get things straightened out a few months after I got here. Just to like open up the doors and.
So proactive, having staff look at.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wanted to bring that more up as a statement. I had heard that, and I thought that was a good thing.
No, I take this position very seriously. This is, I mean, I know I'm going to make mistakes here, but really I just want to do a good job. So, unless there are any other official communications.
Become a Packer fan and all will be forgiven.
I don't think I can do that. I mean, I'm not a big Baseball fan, I mean football fan? I don't think I can do that. Trustee Papantos, you wanted to say something?
To everyone celebrating Rosh Hashanah, Happy New Year. And I'd like to also thank Superintendent Spratt. In our consent agenda, we authorized the purchase of 7 vehicles, which seems like a lot to purchase 7 police vehicles all at once as far as replacement. There's a very good reason for it. It's because of Mr. Spratt's due diligence, searching out, finding out that had we not bought these vehicles now, it would have ended up costing us significantly more in the future. And, you know, he continually amazes all of us as far as doing his job and making sure that we aren't wasting our money and that we're spending it wisely. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Mr. Janik, nice work on the not flooding.
I have one thing.
Mr. Svandelis.
Thank you. If it's okay, we skipped staff reports at the beginning of the meeting, and Director Huizar had one item for the public.
She did, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I wanted to get this in as this event is on Friday. The Village of Wheeling Police and Human Services Departments present a senior resource extravaganza. This will be September 14th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It'll be held at the Shur Hadash Synagogue Auditorium. That's 200 West Dundee Road, just right across the street. We'll be featuring many community organizations as well as local businesses that are providing services for older adults. And if you have any questions, you can give us a call at 847-459-2670. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. I'm very sorry I skipped you.
Trustee Vito.
Trustee Vito.
I have a question for staff and the board. I mistakenly, again, like I did in May, planned vacation for October 15th, but there are 5 Mondays in October, and no one has to answer this now. What's that?
We're skipping that one.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Oh.
There are conflicts.
When was that?
It's in the project.
There are conflicts with a number of members of the board, so that meeting is been
Oh,
canceled.
sweet. Nice.
Trustee Lang.
What was that?
Failed to mention tonight, over the weekend, the Helping Hands Group, some members on this board, Trustee Vogel, Trustee Papantos, Clerk Simpson was part of that, Trustee Kruger, Trustee Brady.
He left.
Tremendous event, and it was for a tremendous cause. I want to thank these folks on this board, the folks who helped, and many, many others in the community that helped on this project. I was able to attend a few of the events, and what I saw was great. It's great to see these kind of events in this community, and you know, hats off to Trustee Vogel. He really works his butt off for these things, and his heart's really in it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a lot of people involved, and especially the public that came out. We had a good turnout and big support from the Village of Wheeling, so we appreciate that.
Thank you all. If that's enough, if that's all, we do have the bills before you for the August 16th through September 5th. I need a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel. Second. Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Oh, here I go again. Thank you, sir. Okay, so, President Gross. Trustee Vogel,
Yes.
Trustee Papantos,
Yes.
Trustee Lang,
Yes.
Trustee Kruger,
Yes.
Trustee Vito,
Yes?
President Horker.
Yes. We have an executive session tonight for the purposes of pending probable or imminent litigation and the review of the minutes lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act. I need a motion to recess into executive session.
So moved.
Trustee Vito, second.
Second.
Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel,
Yes.
Trustee Papantos,
Yes.
Trustee Lang,
Yes.
Trustee Kruger,
Yes.
Trustee Vito,
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes, thank you all for sharing your evening with us. Recess to executive session.
Joe.